What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi, I'm Mindset Coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of The Mindsetters. We are here in season 2 of The Mindsetters, and on this show, we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. We are also on YouTube, so if you like the content, please feel free to subscribe. Give us the like, send your comments. We want to hear from you, good, bad, or indifferent. We love to hear from you and to get some ideas about what you want to hear from us on the show. I am your host, Lorraine Lindsey. I am a certified life coach. I am also a peak performance coach certified through the world famous Tony Robbins. And I'm here today just to share some of my mindset and perspective. I can be reached at Coach Lorraine Lindsey on Instagram, or you can find me at www.coachlorrainelindsey.com. So today we are starting our show. This is the second part of Love and Respect. And as you can recall, we took some excerpts off the book, Love and Respect, from the author Dr. Emerson Eggerts. Last week, we had the ladies come on the show and share about their perspective, specifically in love and what that means to them, and how their feelings of love helps them to show respect for their significant other. So today, though, we decided that the men should come on the show and share their perspective on the respect side. And I think that that's only fair that we do that. But before I introduce the two gentlemen that have come on the show to share, let me introduce my co-host, the lovely Miss Carmen Smith. As you all know, Carmen Smith is a local realtor here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So if you are looking to list a home or to buy a home, please make sure you get in contact with Carmen. You can catch her at Carmen_Smith_realtor on Instagram. Hello, Carmen.
Hello.
This is an exciting show, one that I'm actually kind of nervous about because of the guests that we have on the show. So I'm just going to keep it real. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. So as I said, we have some gentlemen on the show today. And let me introduce my first guest, which is Mr. Arturo Pradera. Okay, a little bit about Arturo. Mr. Pradera is a former professional boxer who graduated from UNLV, with a degree in accounting. He formerly owned his own bookkeeping business in which he served many of the accounting books for the local Catholic churches. He is also a mortgage branch manager with 15 years experience, known for slaying loans and getting deals done. He has rebranded himself and coined the phrase, the loan slayer. Arturo also sits on the board of NAREP, which is the National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, where he serves as treasurer for the last 3 years. He is a proud member of his Hispanic community and has helped hundreds, if not thousands of people build wealth through home ownership when they thought that it wasn't possible. He has been ranked amongst the top 250 mortgage originators in the nation for the last 5 years. He is also one of the top producers for his company, landing him the prestigious award of the Elite President's Circle for the last 8 years. Please help me welcome Mr. Arturo Pradera, aka the Loan Slayer. Hi, Arturo.
Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Carmen.
Hi, Arturo.
Good to be here. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you so much for being here. It's very special that you are gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you.
All right, so my next gentleman that's here to, who I've actually known for a very long time. We go way back to high school. He's actually the one who introduced me to Carmen. So let's talk about Mr. Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith was born and raised in Detroit. He moved to Las Vegas in 1992. He was heavily influenced by the hip hop culture, and at a young age, he found a love for performing and creating music. Over the years, he has traveled and performed at lots of local venues. He's never lost his passion for music, and in 2021, he started the show, the Fifth Element podcast, which is dedicated to preserving the hip-hop culture. He has had artists such as Coolio, Father MC, Busy Bee, and many local artists and celebrities on his show. They promote peace, love, unity, and having fun. Kenny, thank you so much. And oh, by the way, if you are interested in watching his show, please hit his follow. If you could put that right back up for me. He's at the Fifth Element Hip Hop. So please check out his show. He is also on YouTube, and it's a great, great show, especially for you hip hop lovers. Right. Anyway, so what makes these gentlemen so unique and me so nervous to be on this show today? Because not only are we talking about love and respect, but these are actually perspectives that are coming from our exes. Arturo is the gentleman, the mystery man that I've probably shared a lot about on this show. And in fairness to him today, I wanted him to come on the show to share his perspective and his experience having been with me for the time frame that he was with me. And then of course, Kenny and Carmen were married for several years, but we'll let her go into it. So let's go to the next thing. So we've got Kenny and Carmen. A little bit about you two, Carmen. Why don't you take it away?
So Kenny and I met in 1996. We were working at Montgomery Ward's. It's like really dating us, right? But we met
picture
there.
of me, though.
I know, right? So we got married in 2000. We had 3 kids. We have 3 kids, 21, 19, and 12.
Yep.
We separated in 2014 and got divorced in 2019. Yep. And we remain the best of friends.
Yep.
And we co-parent very well.
I agree with that. You guys do a great job with that. All right, so on to me and Arturo. So a little bit about Arturo and I, unless you wanted to say something. Should I do the intro on this?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Arturo and I met back in 2014. We were actually introduced by one of the lipstick ladies, Charlene, who's been on the show many, many times. She was the person that introduced the both of us, and we started off hard and heavy. We went through a lot. We were together for 7 years, on and off. We had a little bit of a tumultuous relationship.
More like 4, but okay.
Yeah, if you calculate all the breakups and makeups, we probably had a good solid 4 years.
4 years.
But chronologically speaking, it was 7 years in the making. Yeah. We got engaged in 2019. And unfortunately, in 2021, that engagement ended, and so did the relationship. And we hadn't talked for a long time, and we recently started reconciling and speaking, and I'm really grateful for you to be on the show, because I know this is very vulnerable, but I think it's only fair that you share your piece. So before we get into the bullet points, because we do have a reference that I found an article to talk about the respect that men need. But before we get into that, I just kind of want to ask, what do you all think? Like a quick little summary of what you felt was the breakdown of the relationship ultimately. Do you gentlemen want to start?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, for us, it's definitely communication. You always talk about TLC. You taught me about that, tender love. No, what is it?
Not tender love, Care Michael Jackson.
I'm going back to, hey,
trust, love, communication.
Yeah. Trust, love, and communication. I think love definitely was there. There was no distrust as far as anything unfaithful or breaking loyalty or anything like that. But communication was always a challenge for us. I think we spoke different languages at times.
Absolutely.
So I think that was, in a nutshell, that's what it was.
I agree with that. What about you, Kenny?
I probably have to agree with that. Communication was probably like the main thing. Not so much as we didn't communicate with each other, just we didn't understand each other when we were talking to each other. I'm like, you can communicate and still not understand. I'm like, if a Chinese person is talking to me in Chinese, I can't speak Chinese, so they don't mean they ain't communicating. I just don't understand it.
It's kind of like the love language thing, right?
Exactly. So
different love languages.
Yeah, it was pretty much that. So I'm like,
it goes back to last week talking about being heard. I don't think we heard each other.
Yeah. Hearing somebody is a little different than just listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be a little bit more specific, if I may. Definitely communication. I think that's also it's a common thread with a lot of relationships, is breakdown in communication, especially when people really, really love each other. And I think without question, all of us really had a great love for one another, and definitely still do. I will say though, our biggest breakdown definitely was communication, but also we are two incredibly headstrong people, and we just, there was never a give and take.
Right.
It was just always take on either side. And to your point, Kenny, where we had very different love languages and different ways of handling our emotions at different times, and I think that ultimately took its toll.
Right.
if I'm being very honest.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys all for sharing that.
Yeah.
So the article that I picked up was it was called the five respect needs of men, excuse me, how to respect your husband or your significant other. And there was 5 great bullet points that I thought would be good talking points for us to kind of really candidly speak about what's important. Because again, us women had the platform last week, but I definitely want you gentlemen to have a platform today, because I think I've even had some comments when the show was posted where some of the women were like, I've been trying to tell my man this and that. And we can get caught up in our own emotions where we're like, we're trying and we become the nag. But I think we missed that piece of not giving you guys a respect when we think that we are. And I really want you guys to give people the mindset and the insight of what it feels like for a man on the receiving end. Okay. So let's just go right into the first bullet point. So the first thing says, respect his judgment. So who wants to kind of take that on? And I can already see the little smirk on your face. So let's hear it, Arturo.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, respect and judgment. I feel like, let's start with this. Obviously, I was, with you. I chose a certain type of woman, strong woman. But I'm a strong man also. So that doesn't mean we have to butt heads. I'm very equitable. I want to be where we're both making decisions together. At times, I'm going to make decisions, that have to be made, or decisions in my own life. And I'll use the example of you brought it up on the show about we had an argument over a financial decision, investment I made, and it was somebody I trust that I've known a long time, and I trust this person. And I wasn't being defensive because you were questioning me. It was the way you questioned me. So, like you just didn't trust at all my judgment. And I'm like, okay, I've been doing my own life a long time. I'm successful at that. So why are you questioning what I'm doing? So you're questioning my judgment to do things, So that was one example, but I feel like that's happened. And again, I'm not trying to be the boss. And just like you make some decisions sometimes, I'm going to make decisions sometimes, and I want to be trusted in my decisions, in my judgment. So.
Okay, so am I listening, or am I allowed to say something?
Oh man, that sounds like
I gotta learn that. No, because I hear that. Okay, and specifically to that, I think it's hard when, like you said, I'm an alpha female. I'm a headstrong. I'm a businesswoman myself. I've made a lot of business decisions, and sometimes and especially me, because I'm like that, not even just with my partnerships, but I could be like that in my friendships too, where I get a little headstrong, especially when I feel like I really know what I'm saying. And let me ask you this then, because I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but what would have been from a woman, because I remember the specific situation in your financial decision. My issue was I wanted him to have done a little bit more due diligence. And what would have been a better way for you to feel that I was respecting your decision, that I could have articulated myself, because I felt right in what I was saying to you?
Well, we've had this conversation now more recent,
depth,
and
yeah.
the way it's gone now is the way it should have gone from the beginning.
Okay,
But,
give an
you know,
example.
If
Example.
I give an example of the first time when we were on the phone that day and we were gonna fight, you were like, "You're gonna trust him with your money," and it's just like the way you even said that, like, how am I supposed to respond to that? Yeah, I already did. So what are you talking about? But it was just the way it was worded and the intonation that just put me like what am I, some little chump that I don't know what to do with my money?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but more recently we have more, and I know it comes from your concern. It's not like I didn't know that. But I'm not gonna have these conversations when I'm being spoken to like I'm a child, So, and that's how I felt at that time, and it happened a few times, and that was the last time I remember. But more recently, we've had more, calm conversations and more informed conversations, So the way it went more recently is the way it should have went from the beginning.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, and it's hard because when you've been with somebody for a long period of time, there's certain anticipation you have with a person, right, on both ends. And so what happens is he's telling me something, but I already anticipate him being defensive, and so I'm coming. So what happens is instead of us taking a seat back and really working through what the conversation, it just becomes some old habits that kind of come in. And I think sometimes when you take a break, you start to reflect on certain things of which could have been handled better. And again, I don't want to be making excuses. So I definitely want you to have the floor on that. Do you kind of want to tap into some experiences with that?
This is referring to judgment, correct?
Yeah.
When it comes to judgment, I can't point out a specific time where, my judgment was questioned. I'm sure it was questioned a lot of times. But I do know that a lot of times when she would approach me about things that we may have disagreed on, it was always, like he said, the tone and the way you come at somebody, and like what you just said, where you said he was like, where you said you're defensive automatically. If you're defensive automatically, that means you already know in your head that this conversation is not going to go smoothly. So you're already on a defense. So when you come at somebody, you're already in attack mode. So that conversation started off in attack mode. So when he attacks back, now it's like you're boom, boom, boom. But you could have came at him, with the honey, and it would have probably went a little easier than that initial of, you know what? I automatically think that my partner is going to respond this way, instead of giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying, like, you know what? Maybe I should talk to him a certain way, and it'll come back to you a little differently.
I think when you're in a relationship for a long time with somebody, you kind of, it becomes a habit, right? Like you automatically go into that defensive kind of, at least for us, I know for me, for sure, always like halfway listening, or and probably vice versa. He's halfway listening to me because we already know where it's gonna go. You know what I mean? So, and I've admitted to that on the show several times about like talking to you as a child, and kind of that parent, like more like a parent, where you're looking for a lover and a partner, not a parent. Right. So I know that was one of my big issues in our marriage.
Right.
And I want to break this down too, because I do want to say to his example that he gave, in my experience, and this is again where a lot of conversation and communication breaks down because of how we were experiencing one another.
Right.
And in the relationship that we had, I always felt that he was the defensive one, and that while as we were being more mature about it, his defensiveness may have been, and I don't want to speak for you, that he felt that he wasn't being respected. But I always say to him, to know me is to love me.
Right.
And there were often times when I was sharing things, when he would share things with me, especially when it comes to business. I'm an equal on that with him. I am not less than, and I'm very knowledgeable. So it would be frustrating for me at times, because I'm like, see me if I were your male counterpart. If I were saying to you the exact same thing and I was one of your male friends, would you get that defensive with me? Because at times I would feel as though he always felt like I was going against him. And so he would get sensitive and get defensive. It's like, I'm not trying to come at you, and I'm not questioning your judgment. I'm questioning the other people. And if you could just hear me and know that this is just mama bear being protective. So again, I'm not making excuses, but for him to understand my heart is to feel loved by him. But for him to have me come to him with a better approach is for me to respect him. And this is that whole love and respect thing. And had I realized, all right, Lorraine, even though you're coming from a good place, a place of love, I want him to feel like he respects my ideas and the things that I'm sharing with him, because it makes me feel loved. But what I didn't realize is that when I was talking to him the way I was talking to him, he couldn't show me love in that and appreciation, because he didn't feel like he was being respected. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to the next bullet point for the gentleman. Respect his abilities. And there's a little, I have the article up here, so I'm going to read a little bit of what they said on this, so it kind of stimulates some conversation.
Okay.
It says, another strong theme that emerged was that men want or even need to figure things out for themselves. And if they can, they feel like they have conquered something and are affirmed as men. For some reason, spending hours figuring out how to put together the new DVD is fun. The problem is we want to help them, meaning us women, and guess how they interpret that. That you don't get it, like you don't have it, we distrust you. So why is that important for you guys to feel that we respect your ability to do things?
Because I feel like every woman wants a man that's capable. No woman wants a man that feels like he has to grunt to his woman to depend on her to do, anything. To be honest, you just want to. I'm like, it's it's the way we were raised as being a provider, protector, and the overall, person you come to in a household. You're supposed to be the knowledgeable one of all things, and you want your woman to see you like that too. So, even though that's not a realistic way of going about things, it's still in certain things. If your woman's right there and you doing something and she see you, just, what, bring me a glass of lemonade. Let me fix this up. Just chill. I got this. Even if I'm messing up, I'm going to learn it. So the next time that this problem or whatever it is arises, you get that much more faith and trust in me because I figured it out.
Right.
And you can depend on me to do it now.
So let me ask you a question then real quick. Oh, Carmen, you want to say something?
Well, can I share?
Go ahead.
Okay,
You're supposed to share. Go.
So I can give an example of that
Mhm.
when you open the computer store.
Right.
And this was probably a huge breakdown for me in our relationship.
Mm.
I'm there 7 months pregnant, laying floor, helping him start this business, computer repair business. And then as soon as you got it going, it was like, you don't get no keys, you don't manage the bank account, like pushing me out of it. So it was like but looking, I understand now that you wanted to prove that you can do it on your own. However, in a marriage and a partnership, you can't do that. Sometimes you're not good at everything, and sometimes having a second set of eyes, can help you excel in that business.
Absolutely. I agree with that. In hindsight, being stubborn and just trying to be, like I said, quote unquote, the man, you make some bad decisions and you don't include the people that, could probably, help you make things be a little bit more smoother and easier for you. You put all the weight on your shoulders because you feel as a man, that's where the weight belongs.
Especially when the woman's literally laboring and laboring
but
to do her part.
Yeah.
But to my defense, I'm like, she was laboring, and I just didn't want to give her any more extra things. Besides, she's got a brand new baby at the house. I'm like, okay, you about to help run a business too? The baby is taking up a lot of your time. That's where my mind is going.
This is where the breakdown of communication happens. And her being there and laying down floors and helping you do that was her expression of love, right?
Absolutely.
And you wanting to take over and take charge and so that you can make this business thrive was your way of getting respect.
Exactly.
But what was happening is nobody was connecting the dots.
Yeah. Right.
So no one was saying, I really appreciate everything that you did for me to get this going, but I want to show you that I can do this because I want to be that kind of man.
Right.
So there was that breakdown. But again, this is why I even want to talk about this, because sometimes we don't realize because we as women want love so much that we show the love because that's what we need, right? And because respect for us is important. Of course, just like love is important for the gentleman, but it doesn't rank the same.
Right.
And so it's just very interesting when we sit down in a space like this and have those conversations, how it really, really, truly opens your perspective to say, that's what I missed.
Right.
Because sometimes we're in those relationships and they're breaking down and we're not really sure why they're breaking down because we're so steadfast in our own feelings. It's all about us.
It's all about
and
your
what
feelings
I didn't
too.
get the love, and he's thinking I didn't get the respect, and I can't believe she's judging on my financial decision when I just want to support her and blah 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Did you want to touch on respecting his abilities?
Well, as far as that, I don't think that's been a major issue in our relationship. Little minor stuff. I mean, you seem to think I'm the best handyman in the world. I'm not, but I'm pretty good. But I'm not that
And
good.
affordable.
And affordable because I'm free.
Yeah.
You think I'm the toughest guy in the world, which I am. But anyway, but it was little stuff like, and I call the other one more judgment, what we just spoke about. So I won't say this, but yeah, I guess that's abilities too. Is my ability to invest in something that I believe in or whatever, or I'm a financial guy, I have an accounting degree. So I mean, I'm not foreign to this world or it was minor stuff.
But that makes sense. So that goes with ability for sure. I have the ability to make decisions. So it doesn't necessarily mean physical abilities, but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. Or something like, I remember years ago, we never combined our finances or anything like that. But years ago, you used to talk about you were going to be the one that paid our bills with our combined money.
That's not how that conversation went.
Well, I remember it that way. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I have perfect credit. I've never paid anything late, and I keep
There goes
everything
the
right
look.
here.
There
Nothing
goes Arturo.
auto pay. I'm just saying. So I was like, at the end, I don't care if you pay the bills. That's a burden off of me.
That is
But
absolutely not how that conversation went.
well, that's how I remember it.
Of course it is.
All right. Well,
Continue.
I don't feel like this has been a major issue with us, so maybe I'm grasping at straws a little bit with remembering old stories. But
Nice save.
Wow.
I'm learning to do that too.
I happen to think that I
Go ahead.
happen to be a great communicator. And in that specific
You do
thing,
happen to think that, and I happen to think that.
it's only a thought though, right?
Yeah.
Hey.
Whatever. Anyway, that was what? Several hundred years ago.
That's
So
funny.
I just, as far as that, I don't feel like you've ever really doubted my abilities. But yeah, we talked about the investment thing I did. So.
But I'm going to be very candid and be very honest and just keep it real. There has been times when I've maybe judged your ability, and like you said, and I have to, but me doing it, not realizing, because there are just certain things, and this is going to sound very arrogant of me to say, but there were certain things that I felt like I just knew better. I had different set of experiences. I had, like Carmen said, I had a different set of lenses, and I'm like, I don't want you to always have to be my knight in shining armor. Sometimes I just need you to know that I'm in war with you. I'm putting on the armor and I'm going to battle with you.
Yeah,
So-
it's just like, and I said this to you before. I feel like we're supposed to be a team, but I felt like sometimes you try to be the coach, and I'm like, that doesn't work.
Well, I
for
am
me,
a life coach. Fair
Yeah,
enough,
so,
though. I'm just teasing. Yeah.
And if you real quick, if you want to bring up another example of something recent, I told you that last year during our breakup, I was considering opening a restaurant with a friend of mine. We looked into it. Now she owns a restaurant already. I've never been in the restaurant business except working as whatever. But long time ago. But my father ran restaurants. My brother's a chef. Like I'm
Everybody
not gonna.
knows somebody who
But
had a
the
restaurant.
point is, but the point is,
Okay.
if you trust my abilities, I am going. If you knowing who I am, I am going to learn everything I can about the restaurant business if I go into the restaurant business.
I do.
I'm not just gonna say, hey, I have this person that already runs one. No, I am gonna jump in and do everything as well. And that's where you should trust.
Again,
And
it
I know the
goes-
restaurant business stuff.
again,
That's besides the point.
There's not everything you can, like, you can't just say, okay, you're the man, do what you want and do what you will with it, because there is a foundation that has to be set, and there has to be boundaries and things. And again, me respecting your ability doesn't mean that I don't know that you don't necessarily have the ability of doing everything. And the only thing that I was saying to you is that I have been privied, and you as well, to be around a lot of successful, very wealthy, successful people. And I've had the blessing to sit and break bread with a lot of these people and learn a lot. And, it's everybody has these like pipe dreams, so to speak, to get into certain businesses, and they start and they don't finish, or they, and it could be a financial disaster. So one of the things that I've always learned is that if you're going to get into a business, every wealthy, and I'm talking billionaire wealthy people, they've all said the same thing. They all say that the biggest time I've ever lost the greatest amount of money is to get into business when I don't know nothing about it. And, we have these ideas. And again, I'm not knocking that you want to start a business, but for 7 years, there's a lot of different business ventures you've wanted to get into. So for me as a woman, you want to be that advisor to say, is this really the right thing for you to get into now? Like master one and then go on to the next. Anyways, you can get a smirk. Go ahead, speak, because now I'm talking over you and everyone's going to talk about me on the show.
No, it's fine. It's just, I just, again, you have to also judge that I'm not just going to go in and not knowing what I'm doing. I'm going to learn everything I can and talk to everybody that I know that's successful in the business. And I know there's billionaires that said this and that, but there's millions of restaurants for a reason. So there are successful people that I know it's one of probably the toughest business you can get in, but there's a lot of successful restaurants, obviously. So I'm not looking at it like I'm going to fail when I walk in. But sometimes you want to take risks and do something in your life with something like that.
But as much as you,
and I'm not going to say I'm going to do
I
that,
think-
but I'm just bringing that up as
an example,
as you're not judging you're not trusting my ability.
I think every now and then we gotta kind of just be a cheerleader and just be quiet.
Thank you.
Every now and then.
I'll
Get
buy
it.
you some pom-poms. What color you want?
So now you're in trouble.
Wait, I'm sorry. Arturo, I'm your biggest fan.
I go
But-
too far sometimes.
But
Yeah.
no, only because I say that because,
That's facts, B.
sometimes we want to guide, we want to give our input, we want to, and just do that. Just do that. Just, this might not work. Are you sure? Whatever the questions you have or whatever, but then just let them be. Especially if you trust a lot of other abilities that the man has. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And I
And
don't
I'm speaking for myself
Yeah,
too.
and I
Not
totally 100% I don't disagree with that. I am definitely one of his biggest cheerleaders. I
Yeah,
am a
I
great
know you are. I
support
know you are.
of him and the things that he does. I admire him very much in business. You know, even independent of whatever happened between us personally,
Yeah.
I've always respected him as a businessman, and I know he's a very smart investor. With that said, though, you can't just always just say be that cheerleader. Sometimes you have to be that voice of reason for men, because men. And you know, we're businesswomen, but
Yeah.
men get very ambitious sometimes, especially when they're very entrepreneurially driven and they're whatever. So they get into these ventures and these things, and if you get too much to be their cheerleader, you end up like
I know our relation. For years, right? Because Kenny was always,
Right.
you know, into music. So I'm right there, Kenny, Kenny, Kenny. You know,
Right.
whatever he wanted to do, whatever, you know, what'd you say? I'm retiring at 30. All right, we're gonna retire at 30.
Hey.
No plan.
No plan.
No plan.
No
I don't know.
plan.
It's just gonna happen. We're gonna retire
It's
at
gonna
30.
happen.
Yes, we're gonna retire at 30. So I get it. You can't always just be a cheerleader.
you can't.
But I'm saying at some point, when there's that much butting heads with somebody has to digress a little bit. You know, it
I
can't
think
always
so.
be a battle of who's right, who's wrong. Because sometimes you got to make those mistakes and walk in them. And I don't,
Yeah.
you know, at some point, you know, it
And
just
I don't
has to-
disagree, but I think sometimes I think women make that mistake of, that's just my opinion, that we become over cheerleaders
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, I was the over cheerleader for a long
Yeah,
time.
But
and then
see-
what happens is every time he starts something and doesn't finish it, or it creates a financial burden in the family, but because you're such the cheerleader every time, they just think they can start and stop and start and stop, and then it becomes a burden for you.
But we don't want to become a burden for them,
That's-
where we're always like tearing
But
down.
we won't
tearing
always
down.
do that if things, you know what I mean. Like, I'm all about him doing and pursuing and all things like that, but I have to also be a voice of reason. And to your point, I don't want to I'm not saying it to break him down. And when you're sharing that with me, I didn't even realize that that's how you felt. So thank you for sharing that with me today. I'm taking it and I'm taking notes. But at the same time too, I have to. What, you're going to say something? Go ahead.
I'll interrupt real quick.
No, please.
I appreciate you being my voice of reason and giving me, you know, different perspectives. Like, you have other perspectives that I might not have. But at times, and there was a response you gave me that day. It was like, well, if you want anything to do with me, then you won't be in the restaurant business. And that was your initial response. And that's defensiveness right there. That's like,
Right.
what kind of ultimatum is that? You know what
That's
I mean? Like, so
Yeah, that's kind of
I think
low.
we're getting
It was-
somewhere
she's been
today.
called out
on her own show. She
I
don't like
know.
it.
Man, that's kind of hard.
Listen, the
Right?
guy's been
Like,
the guy's been a
yikes.
scuba diver. What else? Guitar player,
I've been a lot of things. So
Yes.
what? I'm a jack of
and
all
now he's a
trades.
restaurateur.
But you know, I like to.
He's a
I
dreamer.
can understand where he's coming from when it comes to that, because I think of like that too. I'm like, I like a lot of things. I feel like I can master a lot of things.
Exactly.
I've done a lot of things that people said I couldn't do, and I've mastered them, and I've become good at them. I've did them on my own without the support of anybody. So I can understand where he's coming from. Where he's like, you know what? If I want to go scuba dive today, I'm gonna go scuba dive.
Of course,
I got
of course.
I got the energy, the body, the whatever to do it. You know, all I need you to say, you know what, baby? Here's some scuba gear.
I do.
That's it. You know what
And
I'm
I
saying?
buy it for him every Christmas.
That's it.
Whatever the hobby is that year, he gets the gifts.
And that's
I
all you
support
need.
that.
That's
yeah.
But that's all you need. I'm like, you know, sometimes, you know, I understand the voice of reason of, you know, I understand you looking out for him and being a voice of reason. But sometimes, you know, you just want to just do your thing and just have your girl, like you said, be your cheerleader. Now, that don't mean that you don't, you know, show some reciprocity and do that for her when it's time for her.
Right.
But, you know, when it's your turn, you know, let me do
And I
me.
agree. And the hobby stuff I'm just teasing about. Obviously, I'm being very lighthearted
Yeah.
because I love that he gets into all kinds of things.
Right.
But when it does come to where if we were to be an item and we were to be because again, I'm not a stay-at-home and no knock, and even a stay-at-home mother, there has to be the respect, especially when there's going to be a huge financial decision being made.
Absolutely.
I can't be your cheerleader if this is going to affect our household,
Absolutely.
because at some point it's going to cause a breakdown in that relationship.
I
And
get
so
that.
it's not about always that I'm just coming down on a person or trying to break them down, but it's like, no, this is not going to work. You have other investments right now. You let those come to fruition. If the money is made off of those investments, then by all means, go and buy your restaurant.
Right.
But it's spreading your seeds out, because I'm a financial person myself, and this is where we have to be business partners. This is not where I'm going to be the subservient one with my pom-poms.
Right.
That's not this. He didn't sign up for that if he's with me. So I'm very firm in that, because it's going to affect us financially. And so I'm not supportive of people making big financial decisions if I'm going to be a part of the equation.
Right. And that makes sense. I'm like, you know, if it's going to affect the household in any kind of negative way.
If you want to be single and do it, let me know if I can get a comp meal. I'm all there.
Yeah. If it's a negative effect,
let me give you the counterbalance to that, because you're successful. You make good salary. You've made some good investments that paid off. And you've invested your money, and I've never once questioned any of it. And I don't even know much
because it's
sometimes
working.
about it.
It's
I don't know if
working.
it's working.
How do
It's
you
not
know his
working.
ain't gonna
I'm
work?
not sitting here.
Trust me.
How you
I'm
gonna
not
know
sitting
his
here
ain't gonna
drilling.
work? That's
No,
I'm
I
not
know.
sitting here. You're drilling you about
I'm
them.
just being silly.
You know
It's
what I mean?
okay. I'm just being
I don't know
silly.
what stocks you have your money in. I don't know any of that stuff, and I'm okay with not knowing. It's because at the end of the day, it really is your money.
Again,
but
I don't and this is where it's breakdown of communication,
you
right?
trust in your judgment.
And you're trusting my judgment. And again, this is
Your
where the breakdown
abilities.
of communication was, because for the example, it was never ever about your ability, and I didn't articulate myself the right way and communicate this to you. It was never about your ability or me not respecting your decisions, because I do utterly respect it, and I know your heart's in a good place. And it was never about you, though. I didn't trust the fact that this was something you were kind of going in somewhat blindly, okay? And that there was not some due diligence that was being done. If I'm investing in things, I do a lot of due diligence before I put my money into something. And you kind of took a leap of faith, in my opinion, and I could be wrong about that, but that was where I was questioning it. But let's move on. So I just wanted to put that out there. Respect in communication.
Respecting.
Which is kind of where the show even started, right? Like everybody said, the breakdown ultimately in all of our relationships, the demise was the fact that there was a breakdown in communication. So please, gentlemen, I've been rambling, so take the floor with that. Or Carmen, did you want to start with something
I was
on
just
that?
going to say, even in your situation, it's like everything that's said is right. Nobody's right or wrong. It's just the way it's communicated. And I think that really Lorraine is such a passionate and when she believes it, she believes it, and that's it. But it never comes from a place of trying to hurt somebody. And then Arturo, I think, just kind of wants just a little I want to hear it, say it, and then just
but
leave
he needs
it be.
me to be softer.
Yeah. So that whole communication breakdown between the two. Look at us being counselors for each other.
We're so good.
I think we're going to get progress today.
Yeah.
But I think, we're not, it's, and that whole community, I don't know if it has to come down to us just really saying, this is just the way this person is. This is just the way they're going to deliver it, and learn some kind of balance and acceptance of that if you really want it to make it work. Or I don't know what the answer is, because I don't think
you have to find the balance. I think when you really love someone, and this is self-included, because again, I am very accountable in the way that I communicate. I know it's flawed. I know that I'm very headstrong, and that when I have a very set thing that I want to say, I'm very without emotion, even I'm just very cold about what I think and feel sometimes. So I do recognize that, Lorraine, if you're going to work out in any relationship, whether it be with him or I meet somebody and whatever, a woman has, me as a woman, I need to find a softer way sometimes, a softer approach, not just even in my personal relationship, but in my friendships. I've gotten so businessy in my mind that I handle everything like a transaction sometimes, and I have to work on that.
Like a business.
I'm very transactional. So are you, Carmen.
Except when you're emotional.
But listen, you got to know that I am feminine sometimes, and I get emotional. Okay, so respect and communication, gentlemen.
Respect.
What does that look like? How does that translate for you all when you feel like you're dealing with the nagging woman or the woman that's coming down and putting you down? What's effective communication for you guys that make you really truly feel that you're heard and respected?
You can
See, they don't even know.
I know. I want to give him a chance to speak.
No, go, say it. Go. Go.
Well, to me, there's so many levels to this, aspects. The most simplest one is just respect in the way not using foul language as somebody as far as, calling them names or like that. I'm not gonna say I haven't never done that, but I'm usually not the one that opens that can of worms because I hate it. I hate when that even starts with someone where you be called out of your name, whatever. And then there's just like when somebody's like not listening, they're waiting just to respond, or or they shut it down, or they just hang up on you, or stuff like that.
That's very specific.
It is specific, but it's just like you're not trying to hear me at all, and especially when this one's big, when maybe I said something or did something and it was misinterpreted by the other person, and now they're all pissed off and mad, and I'm explaining to them what I meant or why I did that, and they're still saying that no, it was because of this, and I'm like, no, it wasn't. This is what I meant, or this is why I did that, or maybe I wasn't really thinking when I did that, but I didn't mean it with any disrespect. That was not my intention. So my intention is completely misaligned to something else now, and even when I'm explaining it, the person is just not you. Okay.
I know. I
the
like
person
how
is
he's
you.
referencing
The
it
person
like
is
it's
you. I'm
not
trying to
me he's talking about.
Okay, but it's just not. You're not. You're just still assuming it's this. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. So these are me. These are big things because I feel not being respected when that's happening.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Kenny?
Respect and communication. One, just listening to what I have to say. That's the number one thing. I'm like, a lot of times when you're trying to communicate with somebody, especially right now, they got all these distractions, phones and everything. And, that's a clear sign of you're not trying to hear what I'm saying. And when you do want to talk to somebody, they keep pushing you off, pushing it back. So, to me, I feel like respect requires attention and time. I'm like, and dedicated attention and time, especially if this is somebody you're trying to build something with. So if you're going to say that you're going to respect me when I'm communicating to you, at least give me, the person that you talk to, sit with, chill out with, do everything, watch Netflix with every day, that amount of respect to give me the attention and time I deserve to get whatever it is off my head. And I'll do the same for you. And that's communication right there. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, clearly you're not talking about me because Netflix was after us.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Well, hey, man.
Clearly. Not me.
You guys did
No.
Netflix and chill or what?
Like, I ain't gonna say I didn't chill, but I'm just using it as a
You mean Blockbuster?
right, Redbox maybe,
But
Wow.
speaking of communication, and I want to say this real quick too, because this is something I've learned in our relationship, was even the respect and non-communication.
Right.
I have a tendency
Yes. I forgot about that one.
to, when he would come home from work and he's had this stressful day, he's got a lot of things, I'm the problem solver. That's what I want to be. That's my role in my mind. Or he's venting about issues at work or how he has to do certain things, and I want to give him bullet points and tell him he should do this. And sometimes he would get so frustrated with me. Like, I'm not, why are you trying to give me solutions? What do you think, I'm not capable? And he would get really, really defensive. And then I would get defensive because in my mind, I'm just trying to help you. And I had to learn, like, men handle things a lot different than we do as far as stressors. And so sometimes we want to at least I do. I guess I need to speak for myself. I want to probe and I want to interrogate and I want to know everything about his day. And because I can always know when it's been a bad day just by his body language and kind of his mood. And I always want to fix it. But sometimes me wanting to show love made him feel disrespectful or disrespected. And so do you want to kind of, is that accurate what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's been a while with that. So, but yeah, sometimes it's like, I don't, I can figure this out on my own. I'm just venting to you right now. But I'm gonna solve the problem. And sometimes you're giving me, and it almost felt like you're telling me I had to do this. And I'm like, but I'm gonna handle this my own way. I'm open to your suggestions, obviously, but not the way they're being pushed on me is how it felt sometimes. Like I said, the coach, so that's it.
So could the approach just be, do you want me to hear you or do you want a
Well, that's what
solution
she does.
from me?
That's what I do now.
She
Oh, okay,
does
good.
nowadays.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy for me because there are things, again, there are times when it's like you have the role of man and woman, so to speak. But when you're a businesswoman and you're out there in the world and someone's talking shop with you, if I was with a coworker or a colleague, we could have that kind of dialogue and there wouldn't be this defensiveness. It would just be colleagues exchanging. Whereas for some reason, when it's in your relationship, it always seems like, there becomes a conflict of it, and it gets confusing for me because it's like, no, I'm talking to you like I'm one of the guys, but you're not one of the guys. And as a man, I want to feel like
right.
I'm this and you're this, and not to necessarily say that he's above me. I don't think he thinks like that, but
No.
you just want to have the definitive line sometimes.
Well, it's an easy example because I mean, obviously, you go out with your girlfriends, you talk about different stuff, then you come home and talk to me about. So it's like,
Well,
you don't
the
want me to
same
be
with
one.
guys.
You don't
You
want me
talk
to be one
about
of the
different
girlfriends.
stuff.
When you come home to me, you don't want me to be the girlfriend. Be like, oh, tell me about the gossip. You don't want me to do that, right? So
yeah, but I
it's
can
different.
tell you anyway.
I know. But
And you
I
just-
sit there like,
You don't even want to hear it.
how we done that?
It's funny because, men, when women vent to us, we're expected to just listen, but like you was just saying, he vent to you and you want to solve the problem because you think there's an issue. It may not even be an issue. It just been just frustrated with what's going on. And, a lot of times women do the same thing to us. They sit down with us. They'll talk about the girlfriend, go crazy, blah, 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 whoop, whoop. And we might be like, if we said, man, you just need to cut her off. And whoop, whoop. No, that's my girl. See? That's where we at there, That's we have to stop that. So we have to say like, you have to understand, like, once you get to know your partner, you don't even have to say, do you want me to hear you and respond or
I have
listen?
to say it all the time.
Well, I'm saying once you
because
get to
of my
know
personality, though. Yeah.
once you get to know your partner, and if you have to say it, that means you're aware of it, which means you don't have to say it. You could say it in your head and say, let me assess this, what he's saying to me.
Yeah.
Does he really need me to say that? Because a lot of times when I hear that, I've had somebody say that to me.
Yeah.
And it's offensive to me. I'm like, are you serious? You don't know me enough right now to just know that I'm talking? Just listen. I'm like, especially somebody you've been in a relationship for a long period of time.
But it's hard for me, and I totally hear that, and I think it's difficult for me, especially like being the coach. I'm very much a coach all the time. It's just kind of I walk and breathe it. It's just in my
You got to turn it off.
And I have to learn and you're exactly right. You're 100% correct. I have to learn to shut it off.
Yeah, because you're not saying you just do that with me. You do that with your friendships
Everybody.
and with
Right.
everybody, your
Carmen.
family, and
Poor Carmen.
it can get annoying.
She's my
I've
closest
gotten the rap,
friend.
Arturo,
You got it.
okay?
I know.
She's my closest friend, and then
Avatar.
I've overstepped my bounds sometimes when she literally would even without me having to ask the question, do you want me to listen or say something? She's like, I just want you to listen, Lorraine. And I'm sitting there like, so it's a work in progress because it's very, very hard, especially when I really care about people and I'm opinionated about certain things that they're sharing with me. And I just want to like bestow my thing. And it's not right for me to do it. And it's a work in progress. I can be accountable on that.
But I'm like, that's a lesson in love. Sometimes you just got to let your people you love be who they be who they are.
That's exactly right. I agree with that.
Yeah, you don't have to always fix it. I had to learn that the hard way myself. you
Yeah.
know?
I'm a solution person too. Like I always think in the solution because I'm like, there's a problem. I got to fix it. I got to fix it. I got to fix it. And people don't always want you to fix it.
Right. And not only that, but people aren't always ready to see the solution, right? Sometimes we're so wrapped up in whatever we've got going on that the outsider who's not emotionally attached to the circumstances, they can see the outcome of something because they're not emotionally involved in it. And on the contrary, sometimes when you're emotionally involved in it, there's more that you know to the situation that the person who's not involved in. So there's this, anyway, let's move on to
Sometimes it just don't need to be fixed. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
like that's the simplest solution. Sometimes
Well,
it just don't
I
need
think
to be
it ties
touched.
into trusting the judgment again,
Right.
Because I'm a problem solver as well.
Right.
When you're venting to me sometimes, I just listen. I could tell you, I could tell you what I think you should do or whatever, but normally I don't. And the few times that I have, you're like, oh wow, you gave me a whole different. You've appreciated it because I normally don't do that. So you know that when I went that far to go ahead and say something, you knew it was meaningful.
Yeah, that is very true. Because when you're, but I talk a lot, so he's like that perfect match because he's a great listener. But you're absolutely right. When you do throw that little nugget out there, I'm like, whoa, it's like, it always gets me good, you know? All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next one because we have 2 more bullet points and I want to make sure we stay in a good time frame here. Respect in public.
Oh man.
Now I'm gonna read a little bit on the excerpt here from the article actually. And then you guys can chime in on this. Now, respect in public, it says. Now, we come to one of the most important points of the book, and it's referencing the book in the article. There appears to be an epidemic of public disrespect for men, and the biggest culprit is not the television, movies, or other media, but the women who are supposed to love their men the most. And I've seen this, and not even necessarily in a public setting, but let's say around friends, and let's say you're in a group setting, and a woman, maybe she's frustrated with her man because of things that are going on within the home, and she's not respecting her man at all because she's not feeling the love, and so she can emasculate him in public
Right.
and around
I've
other
never done
people,
that.
where
Yes.
she talks down to him, she's condescending, she makes him feel worthless, and I think it's men, to me, their dignity is very, very important to a man. And if
Absolutely.
you remove his dignity from him, you emasculate a man, you are never going to get full love from him. I don't think so. Then you're just dealing with a child or someone that you're trying to control. But there's nothing sadder to me. It's like a little lost puppy than see a man who has been disrespected publicly or emasculated by someone that he loves.
I can say that, Carmen has never done that to me personally in public, but when you feel like someone hasn't come to your defense, there was a couple of times that I felt like she should have said something, and that's just as bad as you saying it, because it's almost like your silence gives the head nod for agreement. To me, I was just like, oh man, like, you just gonna let this person say this about me? And I'm not going to go into detail about what was said, but
Do you know what it is?
I don't remember what was said, but I know what he's talking about.
Right.
But I
So-
don't remember exactly what was said.
but it was like one of them type of situations to where I felt like, you defending me or not defending me was a form of disrespect in public.
Interesting.
Someone, you let somebody else. Now I'm like, there's no situation ever where somebody says anything about Carmen where I was like, you
Right.
better watch your mouth. I took the Martin approach. Like, you better watch your mouth when it comes to my woman, because that could end up, being bad for you. And I felt like I've just wanted that same reciprocity, on my end. That right there gives you more confidence that the person is with you for the long ride.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, let me
It's
ask
all
you,
good
why
now.
did
We
you?
apologize.
We passed that.
Because
Man.
my thing with Carmen is that you're not a confrontational person. And even when I've had conflicts with people, even recently, she doesn't get involved.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying. So I'm just curious as to, was there a reason why you didn't?
I don't remember why I didn't, because it was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but I don't think that I even thought it was that big of a deal,
Yeah.
probably, to where I needed to say something. But looking back, it probably was.
Well,
It really bothered him, though, because I remember his reaction to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember how it made him feel.
Right. And it was just like, I'm not going to blame Carmen like she was just sitting there like, whatever. But she just, it was all like, we was all together, like you said, in a group setting with friends. And yeah, I don't believe that she thought it was a actual thing, like a dagger to me.
Yeah.
But to me, it was
Yeah.
directed toward me, and it was speaking about me in a situation between me and her. And it was deliberately said to make me feel some type of way,
Okay.
And I felt like, man,
It wasn't like a she went off on him or anything
No,
like
no,
that.
no.
It was kind of a subtle thing, right?
Right. But even in the subtlety, you
But
got
I
the
should have
point.
caught it.
It
I
drove
shoulda
the
caught
point.
it.
But it's interesting though, because with human beings and life experiences, even if we've been together for a long time, there are certain triggers for one person that may not be a trigger for another.
Right.
And I'll give you an example with he and I. There are certain things that just bother me so much. And in his mind, it's like he doesn't get it. He's like, why is that even a big deal? And vice versa.
Right.
And it's like, but my life experiences have led me to these issues that may cause trigger insecurities or trigger whatever it may be, and vice versa. And so again, that's a communication thing, right? And understanding, like you said, you may have not thought it was even that big of a deal, but to him it was like, wow, that was a personal attack on me. But those when your emotions get ignited like that, that's stemming from something that you may not even be aware of.
Yeah.
And that's where communication becomes important, because in that scenario, let's just say, for example, you could have walked away being bitter and resenting her for never having said it and never even told her that you had that feeling.
Right.
And that it could actually manifest and grow. And this is why that communication is so incredibly important.
Absolutely.
You know, I always say, if I've done something wrong, you have to let me know that I've done something wrong. We had a big issue like that when we had our really big breakup where I was doing something wrong. And I'll admit that I was doing something wrong, but we had started going to counseling. I didn't know that he was even aware of what I had did. And while we were having counseling and trying to mend our relationship, it was never brought up. It was something he kept in his back pocket. But what it was doing, it was behind the scenes, it was building this nasty resentment towards me. And I had no idea why. So when we finally blew up and it came up, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I had no idea that this was an issue that he was dealing with, you know? And in his mind, it's like, well, you should have known it was going to be an issue. And I, but, right? But I didn't think it was, to your point, as big of a deal. I mean, it was a big deal, but I didn't think it would affect him as much as it did until it came up later.
Right.
And it came up at the worst possible time. When it was when the I was almost said a bad word, when the volcano was already erupting. The damage was already done at that point.
Right.
You were going to say, Arturo?
No, I was talking about that. As far as, I mean, you know, when you say respect in public, it's like, are you emasculating me in front of people or disrespecting me or, you know, like their situation? Other than all the smack you talked on this show in season 1 about me. You didn't name me, though. I'll give you that. You know what I mean? You didn't name me.
Listen, they're my experiences, and I stand by everything I said.
I'm giving you crap. But other than that, I don't feel like you've done that to me in public. So I don't have anything much to say about that, you know. The only thing maybe is if we had plans to go with some people or go to a get together or party and then you got upset with me and took off, went home instead of, and now I'm like, they're wondering why I didn't go or we didn't show up or I showed up by myself like an idiot. Other than that. So
I have to say, to Carmen's defense, I'm like, since we talked about that a long time ago, she's always said nothing but, you know, great things, and it
always speaks very highly.
Wouldn't let nobody say anything crazy about me. But it did have to be said for her to understand where that sat with me, as far as, you know, being a trigger, if you want to say that.
And I think we're all here together fortunate, and I think we all are very respectful people in that regard to one another, because I've never felt disrespected by Arturo in public.
Right.
You know, he has a 3-second rule when he looks at women.
Oh, God.
A 3-second rule.
I'm like, you got 3 seconds to look at her. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. But then she can never catch that you're staring at her.
it's a good thing
because I don't like that
photographic memory.
Right, you know.
Such a mofo.
I just gave up my secret.
Photographic memory. Okay, I got your photographic memory.
Hey, man, you know.
Anyway, no, but you know, so but there are people out there that are watching that. I think men can relate to been in an environment where the woman just really comes down on them in public like they're a child, even in front. Here's a bad one too, when women have children and not even publicly, but in their home, they talk down to the husband in front of their children or their spouse. I feel like, you know, I get that you get frustrated. I get that you're overwhelmed sometimes, and I get you don't feel like you're being supported, but you have to be very mindful of how you communicate in front of your children, and to emasculate a man in front of your children is detrimental. It really affects the children in a great way. All right, so let's go to our last bullet point, and then we're going to go into our final talk on this. And I think actually this has been very healthy. It's going a lot better. Maybe I should not say nothing just yet.
Fireworks
Don't
about to come.
jinx it.
Yeah. So the last one is respect and assumption, and I wanted to break this one down a little bit too, because it just so it's a little bit more clear. It says, unfortunately, in one area, men have every right to read something into what we say, and that is when we jump to negative conclusions about them. When we really examine our communication, we'll be astounded at how often it assumes something bad about the men we love. See if this assumption rings a bell. So an example they give is, let's say the woman tasks a man with doing something in the home, and then she keeps nagging him, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? So it's like, by asking the question over and over and over again, you're assuming that he didn't hear you the first time, or that he doesn't have intentions to fix the thing. So what do you guys want to kind of tap in on that when it comes to respect and assumption?
Yeah, that's really annoying. You know,
Period.
That's just, there's no other way to put that. You know, I'm like, it's one of those things where your partner wants you to do it on their time.
Okay, I have a story then, because
You know,
Go, Carmen.
there it is.
Carmen.
But,
so I remember my grandmother telling me she divorced her husband because he didn't take out the trash. And I'm like, lady, you're crazy. You didn't divorce him because he didn't take out the trash. So there was a time where the HOA was saying we had to cut the bushes down.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. So I asked Kenny for it. It felt like months.
It was only like a couple of days,
I don't think it was a couple of days, but
maybe a week.
no, because we kept getting letters, so we got a couple
Okay.
of letters.
So it was a couple
some time.
months.
No, it wasn't a couple months. Actually, I cut them.
Men's
No,
time.
no,
then
no,
they
no,
grew
let me
back.
finish.
Men's time.
Yeah,
Okay,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go
Finish,
You
ahead.
did
Carmen.
cut them.
And they came back, and then I had to cut them again, and I was upset because
well,
That's not how I
All right,
remember.
so
Okay,
tell
yeah,
a
go
story
ahead.
that Kenny
Maybe he
chimed in.
did, but they weren't cut right. So I'm like, please cut the bushes.
right.
Please cut the bushes. Please cut the bushes. 3 bushes.
Mhm.
So one night, 11 o'clock at night, he decides he's going to cut the bushes, but he didn't call me out of my name, but
He's complaining.
in a harsh way.
Okay.
And honestly, that was when it clicked what my grandmother said. It was like the straw for me. That
Wow.
was the straw.
Dang, I got divorced over some bushes.
Some bushes.
No.
I'm just messing with you.
Or some bushes.
But it was the straw
That's
because
gonna
I
be
was like, why
her
do
story
I
to
have
her
to?
granddaughter.
No,
Why
I'm just talking, Lorraine.
do
I'm
I
like,
have
you was
to
gonna go ahead. I'm just
continue?
talking.
Okay. You say, oh, Kenny, hurry up here. I
Yeah.
was like, well,
Hold on,
you see
Lorraine.
my little
I already
peacock
see where
feathers
you was
are
about to
coming
go.
out.
You about to give me a whole counseling.
Okay.
No, I'm
No,
like,
but
I'm
it was just
joking.
like,
Am I
why
listening?
is he not? Why is this not as important to him as it is to me? Why does it not matter to him like it matters to me? Why do I have to tell you to do something that we have to do? We signed up for it. We did.
Right.
There was no question about we have to keep
Right.
the bushes up. Why is it not important?
But that was your breaking point.
That and it's not because of the bushes. It
I
was
know
just
it wasn't
the straw.
because of the bushes. I'm just
Right.
talking mess. Carmen know I was, she know I'm gonna say something smart.
So what's your comeback to that? What's your rebuttal?
I'm not making any excuses. I should have cut the bushes. I'm like, that's just what it was. And I should have cut them a long time ago, faster than what I did. But, at the time, I was going through a lot of crazy stuff. Mom passed away and a lot of things. So a lot of things wasn't on the forefront
right.
of priority to me because I had a lot of stuff going on in my head. But like I said, I should have cut the bushes. I should have been present, in the moment. I wasn't. And
again,
as
it's
a
just
result,
so sad because again, it goes back to communication.
Right.
Right.
I felt a lot like I wasn't heard. Things I
Right.
needed
So she
and
wasn't
wanted
feeling
was not
love and
heard.
saying this. I need this man to show me love by
Right.
doing certain things that I feel a man
Right.
should do.
Right.
And you may have been feeling like I got all this stuff going on in my life other
Why
than
didn't
these
I
bushes.
see
Don't
what he
she
was
see
going
that?
through?
Right.
And I feel like she's giving me such a hard time, but I'm struggling. And again, that is the breakdown.
Right.
That is when we started this again, it was about this communication. And I hope that people who are watching, who are still in their relationships, can say, oh, you know what? This makes sense. I haven't shared.
Because you got to think about it. In my mind at that time, it was like, I got all these things going on and you sweating me about some bushes. That's where I was at.
Right.
Not saying that she wasn't valid in her point because, like you said, we did have a agreement that we had to
An obligation,
adhere to. But at the same time, in my head, I was like, man, I'm going through all this. I'm going through. You was here every moment of it, and you asked me about some bushes. That's what I was like. So to me, it was just a minuscule problem, but it was a important thing to her. So
And
like
maybe
I
not.
said,
I don't think the
should've-
bushes were important.
it was just a
wasn't-
task. It was something that she was saying, I need you to do this so I can have confidence that you're still going to handle business in this relationship. That's how I felt later on. Me in hindsight, everything's 2020, but that's where I felt later on. But at the time, what you gonna
Damn
say?
bushes. No.
Bushes, man.
Did you want to kind of touch on that respect in assumption?
Her too.
Yeah.
Like I wish it was bushes. No.
Yeah. As far as like an example like that, like something like that has never been a problem. Lorraine learned early on to task me with things. She'd go to work and be like, okay, today I'm tasking you with this. It'd be a list of stuff. But it'd be stuff like for me that I needed to get done, or sometimes it was for her, for us, whatever. And she knows I'd get on it. If you task me, I'd do it, So that was never an issue. But an assumption, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about earlier, like when I might say something and you assume I meant something else. Or I do something and you feel my intention was different. And then I can't even get over that assumption you made because you don't want to listen to what I'm telling you. That's more the the assumption that I'm talking about with
Okay.
the respect. And if I'm telling you something, or at least because then as soon as I say some or do some, the anger starts, and then there's a breakdown in communication right there. And there's never like, well, what did you mean by that, or why did you do that? It's more like, I know why you did that, and you're an a-hole. And that's more.
I
what it's
think we
been with
both do
assumption.
that, actually.
Okay,
But I
fair
think
enough.
that there's a lot
Fair
of,
enough.
one of my favorite short reads is the 4 agreements, and one of those
Yeah.
agreements is to never make assumptions.
Be impeccable with
And
your word.
Miguel Ruiz is the author of that book.
I
Is that
know.
what you said?
And be
I'm sorry.
impeccable with your word.
And be
Amen.
impeccable with your
impeccable
words,
with your
and
word. Yeah.
don't take things personally, and always be your best. Yes,
Very good book.
those are like, but it's such a quick little short read of a book, but
Mhm.
it's so valuable in everything that it teaches. And one of those things that, again, when we're talking about communication, and people are coming at each other because there's frustration or backstories to it, we stop listening to each other. And like I said last week in the show, sometimes you have to take a pause and you have to say to yourself, or say to your person when you want to communicate, this is what you made me, this is what you did that made me feel like this, instead of making it seem it's about the person. I even, I have a friend who's a school teacher now, and she's having some issues with some of her students, their young kids. And she's like, I just don't know how they're being so naughty. And I said, you have to disassociate the behavior with the person.
Right.
Right. And when we are intertwined in love, we tend to attack our person because we're upset or we're frustrated or we're hurt. And so I even had to learn for myself, and even with my son, is to say, you're an amazing person. You're a good person. I love and respect you, as an example. But what you did, this action was bad. And to create that separation so the person can ease up a little bit. Because again, a lot of times when we love one another and we're frustrated, it's because we're hurt. And we want our person to be a certain thing, but we're also very selfish in those ideals, right?
I think it's easier for you to do that with a child than it is somebody who you invite in your life.
Right.
Your child is unconditional love from the beginning. It don't matter what they do. Your child could turn out just about almost any kind of way, and you're going to love them like a mother or a father will. A person you invite in your life, you always have that option to separate.
Right.
And if you're always willing to exercise that option, you don't look at them with those unconditional eyes like that.
And maybe that's why we're flawed.
Right.
Maybe we need to say, if I'm inviting this person in my life to spend my life with, I need to change my lens to say that I need to exercise a little bit more of unconditional love.
Yeah.
We're very self-centered people.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants what they want in their relationship. I want him to be perfect, and that's something he used to say to me. And he's like, you want me to be so perfect for you, and it's like, I can't. And I said, well, and at the same time too, I'm like, but I'm allowed to be angry with you without you feeling like you're less than a man. I'm not complaining about the way you love me. I complain about the other stuff.
Right. But the other stuff is all things that'll pass by. At the end of the day, when you 70 and all that other stuff gone, all that's left is some love. What you gonna do then?
Yeah, but I mean, that sounds like a fairy tale book, and
It's not a fairy tale.
Because
It's-
there's so much time in between.
It's a lot of
so
time in between, but I'm like, if this the person that you're actually gonna actively spend your life with, then some of these things you're gonna have to try to work through.
And you know what I think?
know?
Yes, and not to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I always interrupt people anyway. but I would say that it also requires each person to say, why are you, like, the thing is, we're always worried about how we are made to feel instead of asking the person, what's the breakdown here? What is it that you feel that I could do better? And a lot of times we don't ask those questions. And then even if we do ask the questions, we don't act upon it because, at some point, if we're lucky, we're going to live to be elderly and grow old together.
Right.
But there's certain things in a relationship that are deal breakers. And you don't want to have to keep going through this thing and become unhappy because the person is not willing to be accountable to why there was a breakdown, because both people
a lot of
participate
times
in that.
those deal breakers, if they're expressed in the beginning, then the other person should know that these are deal breakers.
But you don't know to do it always in the beginning because things come up as the relationship evolves.
Well, there are things that's already been set in stone from past relationships or whatever that you know are deal breakers. Now, I'm even talking about your first relationship, because your first one, you pretty much discovering. By the time you get to that second or third one, you know what you don't like and what you like. So you can always communicate that, like, look, these are the things that I will absolutely not tolerate. This is how I need to be treated as a person. You can give them that, and they know that if they cross those lines, and if you say, you know what, I decide to walk away, then they can't say to themselves, you know what, I ain't know. No, you knew. and you accountable for what you know at that point.
But then I can also arguably say, what did you learn from your lesson in your past relationship? What have you done about it to improve yourself?
Absolutely.
Because it isn't always about what. We all have to have boundaries and deal breakers, of course.
Absolutely.
But obviously, we all got intertwined in a relationship because in the inception of that relationship, it felt right and it worked. But at some point, there was a breakdown, and a relationship is not cyclical, it moves around.
Right.
And so we change, we evolved, our wants and needs are different. And if we don't take the responsibility in that relationship to ask each other and to pay attention to, why is there distance here? Why am I feeling disrespected? Why am I not feeling love? And not asking your person the question instead of creating your own ideas as to what's breaking down, then it's not going to work.
Right.
It won't work.
And like you said before, communication is something that definitely has to be instilled in the relationship. But like I said, that's a form of communication in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's letting the person know what your buttons are.
Yeah.
You know, letting them know that, like, you know, you cross these lines, then, you know, you should expect the results. It's just the same as the law. You know, if you go and steal, you're going to do 5 to 10 years in jail.
Right.
There's no, you know, getting around it.
Right.
You know, and we all have our own laws that we set with people. I'm like, I always like to say our wants change, but our don't wants pretty much our don't wants forever. You know,
I don't necessarily agree with that, and I think relationships are evolving. You're not the same man at 18 that you are now.
I'm not the same man I was at 18, but what I do know, the solid things in the relationship that I want to be solid and that I don't like to be disrespected in, those don't change.
Those aren't deal. Yeah,
they haven't changed since I was 18. They're not going to change when I turn 80.
And I get that. I get that there's certain solid things, but I mean, that's not really why these relationships broke down.
No, they're not. I'm like, those things, maybe they are, but they're forms of those things.
Right.
You know, they all lead back to those things. So if you follow the trail, these are your core things that you know,
your
you say
values,
that I'm not gonna allow somebody to be disrespect me or to disrespect me in. And all those little things, it's like a little trail that goes back to that one thing. You know, if you feel disrespected in that one thing, that one way, and you're like, you know what? This is what I won't tolerate.
Right.
Now, it may, like I said, it may end with bushes, but it wasn't bushes.
But if it got to the bushes, then
nobody's ever going to want me that has bushes in their yard.
Right. You know, but that's what I mean, though. You know, it wasn't that little thing.
Yeah.
It was that little thing that trailed back to that
I totally
big
hear
thing.
what you're saying, but the only thing I will add to that before we conclude is it wasn't the bushes. It was the lack of conversation that led to the bushes on both parts.
Absolutely.
So regardless of whatever your deal breakers are,
Right.
the other person had theirs too.
Absolutely.
And so when two people have deal breakers, they can be very, very different types of deal breakers. That's why I said you can't say anything's ever set in stone. Because when you really love somebody, you have your deal breakers as an independent person all by yourself.
Right.
They have their deal breaking as an independent person all by themselves. But when you come together, there are some deal breakers that have to be compromised. And I don't mean like the obvious things like infidelity or things like that. But I mean that as you evolve, as you change, as you move.
But even things like infidelity, they have to be discussed, because a lot of times people will, if you don't say them out loud, it never existed.
Listen, we're all adults here.
I tell people that.
You don't have. There's certain things you don't have to have a conversation about unless someone says, "Hey, are you open to an open marriage?"
Right.
But if you're getting married, there is unless we're. I mean, we're gonna go left field with this, but let's conclude. Let's conclude.
Go ahead.
All right. So the final question I have for everybody before we go. This, by the way, again, I thank you guys so much for coming on. I think this is a really relevant show. The final question I have for everybody here is, what do you know now about love and respect that you didn't feel like you knew before? And what is the greatest lesson that you have learned from your experience in your relationship as far as your own accountability? So the first question again, what do you know now that you didn't know before?
What I know now that I didn't know before. I like to say that I know myself better now. You know, I know how to be in a relationship now that I didn't know before. You know, and I know that, you know, there are certain things that, like you said, I have to compromise with as far as allowing the other person to be, you know, who they are, and me supporting them in the way they need to be supported. I didn't know that kind of stuff before. You know, you think you supporting somebody and you don't. You know, the actions don't line up. You know, being in the, you know, from hindsight 2020, I can see certain things that I did that wasn't always as supportive as it should have been.
That's beautifully said. And what about your greatest lesson as far as Maybe they're intertwined. Maybe the answer's the same. I don't know.
You know, I say the greatest lesson: accountability. Accountability leads to all the things that you want in a relationship. When you're accountable and you stand up for it, you get the compassion you desire as a man. You get the respect that you desire
I love
because
that.
you can be, you know, it's almost like it runs hand in hand with your honesty. You know, if you're accountable to it, then you can, you know, you look at this person looks at you in different eyes now. Now they're like, okay, at least this person is not trying to dodge the fact that this happened.
It softens it so much when
Yeah.
someone
It
takes responsibility.
It does.
And it eases your own self when you do.
Yeah.
It gives you
feel
back your
heard,
power.
It's acknowledged.
Yeah.
Everything, you know.
Yeah. When I feel that the person's being accountable to what their participation, it puts me at ease. And when I'm accountable, it makes me feel more empowered in my relationship. Because then, like, this is what I could have done different.
Yeah.
Arturo, what about you? I'll repeat the question again. What do you know now about love and respect that you didn't know before? And then the second part is, what is your greatest lesson that you've learned?
Well, I'm not going to repeat everything you said. I'm just going to add to it because everything you said is what was in my mind. But also with love, you know, the love languages are big, I think, because when you know how somebody wants to be loved, you can love somebody the way you want to be loved all day long.
Right.
But that the other person might know they're loved, but they might not feel loved. So
Right.
on the love side, as far as respect, all these things we went through today are things I've learned through the relationship. Is there's so many different aspects of respect in a relationship, and as well as, you know, women or anybody, men and women, but women in general want to be loved, unconditionally loved. Men want to be respected unconditionally. So I may not be always meeting your expectations, but I still want to be respected. You know, now obviously if a man doesn't meet your expectations a lot, then they're not meeting your standards. So that's a whole nother thing. But if every once in a while I'm not on my A game or something, I still want to be unconditionally respected.
Right.
As far as the second question, you don't have to repeat it. Accountability is something I've learned more recently since this breakup, about taking responsibility. And I've learned to start taking responsibility for everything in my life, everything that's happened, everything, whether it was my fault or not, my role in things, because there's always my role. So when I start taking responsibility, I notice that I get a different, and I own up to that. I get a different response, and I like you said, you get what you want that way. You know, you start taking responsibility, because I know that I either attracted this in my life, or I did this, or this led to this, or whatever it was. So when you start taking responsibility, it's just disarming to the other party involved, the other person. So you disarm them, and now it's just like, and that doesn't mean the other person didn't have their part in it, of course, but now you get to let them see their part in it because you've taken responsibility. So now I'm at peace because I know I've taken responsibility. Okay?
Right.
So, and there's other situations with other people in my life that I know I've taken responsibility now, and now it's just on them.
Right.
You know what, that right there, that's powerful in and of itself. It's like when I know I'm owning, because sometimes you try so hard to mend something, but the moment you own your part and you acknowledge that to the person, and you say, this is what I've done, and will you forgive me or whatever, and they still want to hold on to it, like you said, you just kind of have to just surrender and say, you know what? Now the burden's on them. I'm taking responsibility, I'm being accountable, and I'm coming to this person with that. And like you said, and then sometimes you just have to let it be and let that person figure it out. What about you, Carmen?
Repeat the question for me.
Question. What do you know now about love and respect that you didn't know before, and what is your greatest lesson?
I've learned that I always kind of felt like I was the parent. Like I always, I talked down a lot, and, you know, I never trusted, you know, I never let down that wall to trust something. So I've learned, to just be a little more like, just listen to people more. I communicate better. I try to not ever talk down to a man, and those are probably the biggest things that I learned from my relationship.
And the greatest lesson, would that be kind of in alignment with it?
The greatest lesson, yeah, just the way I communicate, the way I try, because the biggest thing was not being heard. So I realized my part in that was my delivery. You know, nobody wants to listen to somebody who nags, and I don't know if I nagged all the time, but I think that.
No, you did. No, I'm messing with you. No, I'm messing with you.
So, and maybe that goes back to why I'm so like chill. You know what I mean? Because I don't like being like, I don't have to get my point across that way. I don't have to like be aggressive with it, or I don't have to yell, or I don't have to, I could kind of just talk. And I think I get heard better that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll say for me, the what I know now that I didn't maybe know before is that I didn't grow up with a family where there was a husband and wife in the household. I didn't grow up with positive images of men. And what I had to really learn in my relationship, because our relationship was very tumultuous, was part of my participation in that was my fear, my issues with abandonment, and my trust issues with men, and not allowing him to just love me because I just didn't let him, you know? And sometimes the disrespect that I would bestow upon him was really because I was so afraid of if I let this person in and give them all of this, then they're eventually going to leave me like what I experienced growing up. And that's a big lesson that I've really had to learn with him and just moving forward in my life. And also, I've also learned that I don't have to know the answers to everything, and it's okay. Because I think part of me always wanting to solve problems was my great way of contribution to my relationship. And yet it wasn't a contribution. It was a hindrance at many times. And being able to actually sit down and us having conversations as opposed to coming at each other has been really fulfilling. But part of that fulfillment has been your participation in your growth. And that's what's required, I think, when relationships start to break down, that both people, this is the lesson, to answer the second part of the question. The lesson is that both people, if there is a genuine love for one another, you both have to be very willing to be accountable and to come to each other with self and accountability and self. So like you said, you can disarm one another so we can really get down to what's going on. And that's a great lesson, like, for me, just to really, really improve upon communication, because we all want to thrive in our relationships. We all want to be able to feel fulfilled and loved and heard. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this program. This was probably the most candid and most vulnerable show that I've ever done, other than when I did with my son. But thank you so much. And again, subscribe. We want to hear from you. If there's topics you would like for us to discuss, please let us know. And until next time, thank you for watching The Mindsetters. Ciao.